Happy Wednesday, everyone. Hope everyone's having a good week so far. We are back with some more Roadwarden. Wow, it's actually, I think it's just a slightly opaque webcam I have set up, but with this, it's supposed to be like a light green, almost looks gray on the webcam. It's kind of funny. But anyway, we are back. Let's load in. Sorry it's been a few days, but so I had just told, sorry, I had to like collect what I was actually doing. I had just told Ela in Creeks about the plague in Old Pagos. So, and this is reset, so he might actually want to tell me about Asterion. So we're gonna leave with that. I don't know if I read this, so I'm gonna just start with this anyway. Jenkins is being crazy. He freezes, puts away his tools, and looks at you with wide eyes. Wait for a bit, will you? Without waiting for your response, he swings up and knocks down a few planks as he lurches away, asking his neighbors to call the entire tribe. I did read this, but I'll read it again. People surround you, asking what's going on. and once the news spreads, you answer dozens of questions. The most of what you have to say could be summed up with, "I'm not sure." Aside from the worried faces, there are also more pragmatic ones. Hunters mention that they won't be able to deliver their autumn pelts, while one of the farmers wonders about her cousin. "She was always so pious," she says with an accent you remember from old Pagos. "May the right reward her prayers, or else." After some time, the crowd pays you little attention, and Eli leads you back to his workshop. "They and I will discuss this later," he says with an absent voice, then sits down and glances at his neighbors. "Be serious now, Eli. I need to know what happened to Asterion." He springs up, still holding his tools and demonstrating his threatening physique, and raises his voice. "I am serious. I don't know." He looks behind him and even takes a step back, but with every few gestures his breath gets a bit slower. "He said there's something of great value hidden in the wilderness, Roadwarden. A treasure, I think. And that treasure would change the North." He rubs his forearms, but there is still tension in his shell. "He needed help we couldn't give him, and told us to prepare for Glacia and her bandits to come for supplies. He paid for them up front, but she never came, neither did he." When he sits down again, he doesn't look at you. "I never saw him like that before. He was tired and worried, friend. His words lacked confidence. It may very well be that something caught him, but we weren't a part of this. Now please, let me be." "Very well." Let's go talk to the hunter. Oh. That's right, I don't really have anything for him. Alright, it's getting late. Let's see where we can actually make it to. How much? I have 10 coins now. If we can make it, we can just make it to Hallersdale. I need to buy that lantern. To Hallersdale we go. A what? Okay. You ride through the open gate and then swiftly dismount. Some of the locals greet you politely, but they keep their distance. After you notice your own smell and the dirt on your clothes, you no longer wonder why. Head to the stables. Oh, this guy is gonna bleed me dry. Here you go. Take my coin. He nods with gratitude and throws the bone in the leaky bucket hanging from a nail and grabs a wooden pitchfork. Mean square. Oh, I think we just sleep. Okay. Well, luckily we can get cleaned up. We can get some food. I don't need the extra vitality, but I think we're good. Rent the room. You notice it while you undress. One of your recent wounds is going to leave a mark. Oh, now we have an injury. Interesting. I wonder if this actually has any significance, or if it's just... I first noticed it by touch, then see it in the reflection of my blade, a long cut on my cheek. I don't know if there's actually any significance, but... You spend the night in peace, in a clean bed with a tightly shut window and a warm blanket. In the morning, you find a stool placed by your bed covered with a fried salmon in sorrel sauce and a bowl of gruel. Once you get dressed and go downstairs, a young boy who's covered in mud and speaks unusually loud and enthusiastically mentions that Haas has already been brushed and watered. You nod, but he runs outside without noticing it. The innkeeper is sitting near the door from time to time carrying out another bowl with either stew or gruel. Alright, well, let's wait for a few minutes for the trader. 2 hours and 45 minutes for some reason. Well, let's ask about that, actually. You hear Akiko's voice. Here to see me? Just a minute. I usually start a bit later. He goes and unpacks. How about some useful herbs or ointments? You do have druids around here. Well, Nahappen sparse supplies. He puts a finger to his lips, giving it a slight bite. The druids are better at casting healing than making bombs. Used to be different, but magic's stronger regardless. Before you can change the topic, he points northeast. Try by White Marshes. There's what's-his-face, a warlock there, who used to take lessons at our village. Oops. From the old archdruid. If anyone around here knows his way around leaves, 'tis him. What do you have for sale? A wooden lantern. I want that axe. And there goes all my money. Bring goods to sale. What are you going to buy from me? Oh, no, that's that guy's. Forget it. I'm not selling that tablet. Okay, nothing for now. I'll leave the square. Now we're going to travel. Actually, quick save. Now we're going to travel back to the cave. Oh no, I wanted to go through the... Oh well. I didn't actually... I thought we had to get through the tunnel, but... The detour is not as smooth as the main road. A wagon could make it through... Actually, I'm going to quick load. Yeah. We have the lantern. I want to go through. The gentle wind brushes your hair. Listening to the hooves and rustling leaves makes you forget about your struggles. Time to see what hides inside. Oh! Let's place a bronze rod. Find the perfect spot. A small crack between two massive rocks. Use the rod to broaden it just a bit, then push it halfway in and fill the gaps with a rag. Dust off my hands. Time to see what hides inside. Grab my lantern. You place a candle on the ground, then light it up with a few sparks from your tinderbox. You shove it inside the lantern through the hole in its top, pressing it into a nail. You shake it for a bit, making sure it will stay standing. The candle isn't as bright as your torch, but it's safer. Will last longer and can easily be replaced by another one. I enter the tunnel. The road ahead is like the one you just crossed. A human-carved, straight corridor supported with beams, while the other paths are curved and narrow. The only light comes from the exit, minutes away from here. Oh no, it's a gauntlet. Well, quick save again. I look around. The remains of prey and fruit are rotting, but get sparser the deeper you enter the tunnel. The moist walls are shining, as if they're made of an ore unknown to human tribes. You observe the dried trails. The ones left by boots lead toward both corridors. The path to your right also has marks left by hooves and wheels. Some of the fresher trails leading deeper into the tunnel resemble human souls, but deformed, lacking skin between their toes. Gross. To the right. The corridor is unlike the others, taller and more rounded, with claw marks on the walls. It leads you to a chamber with a ceiling supported by a single beam. There's also an abandoned cart, the fence of an animal pen, and a few long sticks and planks. You take a glance at the new exit. It leads slightly upward and looks a bit like stairs. I search the room. You find no caches or boxes, and the cart is empty. The one thing that draws your attention are the planks and logs themselves. They're in decent shape, flexible. They're too moist to be worth carrying out of the cave. They could be turned into a new door, or maybe a table. It's cool. Could maybe make this a little shelter. I climb up the stairs. You flinch after the light touches the resting bone, but nothing tries to jump at you, and you hear no shuffling feet. You step forward and take a closer look at the remains of the massive creature. It used to be 2 times as long as your palfrey. 3 if you were to count the hind limbs. It resembles a bear, but its skull has no sharp teeth and is of a different shape. I take a closer look at the skeleton. The ribs of the creature are as long as your own trunk, though the age makes them brittle. You observe the long legs, horse-like head, and the massive stomach. You can't tell if you've ever seen such a beast alive, but surely not its trophies. A part that's uniquely sharp are the creature's claws. They could pierce two sides of your skull at once, as curved as a war pick and as heavy as an axe, and the marks on the walls perfectly match them. While impressive, they're too old and awkward to be turned into tools. I leave the chamber. Leave the chamber. Okay. Turn left. There in the chamber is humid. How much time do we have? Shoot. There in the chamber is humid. The straw beds are covered with mold. The sagging racks are bending under their own weight, and the animal pelts on the floor release a terrible stench. I search the room carefully. Using an old walking stick, you push the furs and mattresses aside, and you spare your gloves from touching the sticky odds and ends by wrapping them with a cloth. You find only one thing of value, hidden in a rare, dry bowl pushed to the side of a shelf. A tiny ring made of a bone. Not a coin, but a piece of jewelry. Still elegant, with a distinguished carving of a fish on its top and scales on its side. Okay, leave the chamber. I move forward. You forge ahead for another few... How much time are we... Okay. You forge ahead for another few long minutes, no longer able to see the light from the exit. You need to stand on someone's shoulders to touch the ceiling. So far, you could ride through the tunnel without getting out of the saddle. The sound of a stream is reaching you from ahead. This time, there are no side paths. I mean, we're on the horse, I thought. Examine the tunnel. You spend a few minutes walking back and forth. Here, the wooden support is denser, with more beams both on the walls and on the ceiling. The trash, on the other hand, is sparse, and you find nothing of use. The animal trails turn back to the entrance, with the exception of the human-like bony prints. Oh no. I move forward. The stream has formed a wide pond. You stab it in a few spots, but it turns out to be only a finger or two deep. There's no sign of a bridge. I crouch and take a closer look at the water. It's clean, but the dark rocks and the lack of light camouflage its soft, sand-like bed. You find a few fish bones and other remains, but with every step you disturb the sediment, further clouding the water. The water flows from your right to the left. Its trail is wide enough to follow, at least for a few steps, and so tall you can do so without crouching. I follow the water. The corridor has become less spacious after just a few steps, but you manage to take a good look around, moving both with and against the flow. The wet walls are home to worms, mold, and what looks like pale spiders, though with only 6 legs. Among the commotion, you spot a cave ear sticking out of the wall, a familiar, though unfriendly mushroom, their creamy color distorted by your light. You grab your knife and cut away what seems like the least bug-infested chunk, and after wrapping it with a linen sheet, you wash your hands. The cave ear is used by some fighters to enhance their senses in combat. You may want to take it to an alchemist. I move forward. The open door to your right leads to a narrow corridor. You take a look further down the tunnel. A cave-in broke the timber, blocking the path forward. I take a closer look at the cave-in. You push away a few rocks, making them roll on the floor, but the blockade is at least a few steps deep. It would take an entire team of diggers to get through, if it's possible at all. You climb up a bit and peek through a larger hole, close to the ceiling. There's a weak light coming from the distant end of the tunnel. I walk through the door. It squeaks. The corridor resembles the interiors of a fortress, with flat, regular walls, and a ceiling so low you couldn't ride through it. You reach another, much larger chamber, which seems to mimic the corridor style. I enter it. The spoiled food and moldy planks make you hold your breath. The chamber used to serve as a dining spot, with tables, chairs, shelves for mugs, and barrels of drinks. But all that's left are worms and mustiness. You don't see the furthest wall until you bring your light closer. The open door leads to a new natural cavern. Another closed door is in the corner of the room, opposite the one you came from. I search the chamber. The place was abandoned in haste, but you find no signs of large creatures, bones, or destruction. The wood gives way only to time. A few of the barrels still contain liquids, though you wouldn't dare open them. Close to the exit leading to a cave, you find a hook with a simple iron key. You pick it up, and it stains your hand with rust. I try to open the door in the corner. The door gives way. The next room is also too large for your light to reach all the corners at once. The empty shelves, chests, and spear racks give you no promise of a hidden treasure. But you also find a box with rusty nails, a cracked barrel in the corner, and a broken blade. You could spend some time collecting these and other iron scraps and sell them in a village. In the room's corner, you notice a wide sheet of moldy fabric that covers a large part of the wall. Oh, how long is collecting metal scraps going to take? 45 minutes. Having no useful tools at hand, you struggle to dismantle the barrel and cut away all the bits of wood that are attached to the pieces of iron and steel. After a long while, you prepare a decent clanging sack. For now, or decent clanging sack. For now, you move it to the dining chamber and leave it by the exit. I examine the curtain. It's divided in the center, allowing you to draw it. Behind it, you find a tiny room, maybe 2 steps wide and 3 steps deep. It's silent, not as humid. The wall ahead isn't like the others. It's covered with red and purple bricks. Look for anything unusual. The walls to your left and right bear a few iron hooks that could be used to hang cloaks, paintings, or trophies. The corners aren't too dusty, and there are no footprints on the floor. You inspect the brick wall further. In its center, at least chest height, you spot a distinctive engraving. It's a winged hourglass, about a finger long. Oh, well, that's disappointing. Leave the room. I walk through the ajar door. The cave is so moist that the diggers placed planks on the ground, serving as a now useless bridge through the puddles. The rocks, shaped like icicles, ominously hang from the ceiling, in some spots merging with their on-the-floor counterparts and forming hourglass-like columns. I search the chamber. You leave the rotten planks and explore the cavern carefully, making the light dance on the droplets and puddles, but you find nothing of use or value. I try to open the door. The door opens quietly, and you return to the main tunnel. You could turn south again and see if there's anything you missed, but after you blink a few times, you realize there's a light at the opposite end of the tunnel, far ahead. It's weak and flickers like a torch. Ooh. How are we doing on time? We're pretty stuck in here at this point. Well, I move closer to the light. Still carrying your light, you move forward carefully. You pay attention to sounds and movements, but there's no crackling of a campfire, no wandering or chatter. You see a shape of a gate far in the distance. I try to get close enough to see who's responsible for the light. You stumble over the cord that's stretched right above the ground, starting the clatter of pieces of wood and bone that are hanging from it. The light at the end of the tunnel draws near, followed by a few human-like figures. I take a few steps back and try to see who I'm dealing with. Oh no. The creatures don't shout or wail, and neither make threatening gestures nor cast angry glances. You hear only the rattle of their bones as they hit against the rocky floor. The empty eye sockets of the naked skulls reveal nothing. The 4 skeletons wear a few rags, and 2 of them still have scraps of flesh on their limbs. Their weapons are unconvincing, simple digging tools and spears tipped with rocks. But you notice the speed and confidence of their movements. The one in the back is holding a wooden lantern, while another is carrying a fresh torch, but the group doesn't pay much attention to their steps. Well, that's fun. Alright. What do we do? I somehow feel like a crossbow's not going to do much. Let's see what we can. I'm ready to face them. Oh. Both you and the skeletons have the time to take a proper stance, filling the chamber with the thuds of your boots and bones. With or without flesh, your target blocks and dodges, making you fight as if you're facing a human, not a bloodthirsty beast. You struggle to land any hit, with the weight of your axe hardly compensating for all the parrying, darkness, and rattling. Your brave swings shift into a defensive stance when a powerful blow reaches your back, dangerously close to the spine, and is then followed by a strike to your cheek. You try to lead your enemy to a different spot. Finally, you end up surrounded with crushed and detached bones, gasping for air and hurting. The corridors fall silent. One hit landed on your arm, causing it to bleed slightly. I'll decide what to do with the corpses after I leave the tunnel. Alright. Could have gone worse. Took a little bit of health damage. And they damaged my armor again. I enter the dark chamber ahead. While the chamber is in shambles, you recognize its unusual furniture. The sharpened stakes, shield-like tables for crossbow users, empty spear racks. If necessary, it could be the last line of defense for guards and diggers, surrounding any beast or a bandit determined enough to reach the end of the tunnel. You're in front of a massive double-leaf gate, taller than 2 humans, made of bronze. You're not sure if a single shell can even move it. I search the room. While there's plenty of furniture to look under or push aside, the undead left little to no signs of their presence, as if they were idly standing for years. A small pile of candles and another much larger one of candle stumps don't explain why the walking corpses would use light. You grab a few of the candles for later. I take a look at the gate. It's made of sheets held by thick bars. The pictures impressed on the surface portray fishers and their catch. Sea monsters covered with nets, falling harpies, and working diggers. While it's doubtful it's made of a material worthy of turning into blades, it's priceless. You look through the keyhole, observing the continuing path and the clear sky with ease, despite the cobwebs. You take a deep breath of fresh air, then put 4 fingers inside. A key of this size shouldn't be difficult to find. Oh no. I was hoping the key I had was it. Okay. I return to the tunnel. Losing time. A quick save again. Oh no, the bronze gate. Okay, that's where it just was. Go back to the crossroads. I head south in the direction I came from. You reach the other side of the cave-in, getting a good view at its size. You find a new door here. It's a bit tilted, closed, and soggy. I try to open the door. The small iron padlock won't budge. I try the key I found in the dining chamber. After a bit of wiggling, the padlock gives in. The door lets out a sigh and you enter a humble cave that's been turned into a storeroom. Your light reveals crates, a pile of timber, a stack of rocks, and another of bricks. I search the chamber. You move the building materials aside, taking note of the somewhat dry timber, but the first thing you find are the tools stored in one of the crates. The crude axes, hammers, chisels, pickaxes, and digging bars are all old and made of rocks, antlers, and bones. Though they're worthless, you move a few of them closer to the tunnel. If necessary, you'll know where to find them. I walk outside. Well, I need a big key. I don't think I missed anything. As deep into the tunnel as I can? Oh, shoot. Yeah, let's just go back to Haas. I don't know. Haas is observing the short grass with little enthusiasm. It may be the right time to take care. Okay, I don't know how long that's going to take. So, maybe the right time to take care of the corpses. Picking up the bones won't take you much time, but the funeral traditions are rather demanding. You'll need to chop and gather enough wood to form a big pile somewhere down the hill. Of course, the orthodox approach is not the only one possible. They're just going to come back. Get back to it. How much time? An hour? Okay. 2 hours to go there. How much time do I have? Yeah, I'll just have to deal with it later and hope for the best. Wait, can we? Okay. Yeah, let's just go to Foggy's. Actually, you know what? Let's just be hopeful, I guess. See what happens. Let the wolves and deer do all the work. After spending a few more minutes in the darkness, you step outside of the beaten path with 3 sacks filled with human remains. You throw their contents at the bushes, into the tall grasses, down the crags, into the pond. It may not be too elegant, but nothing stops you. I just don't have time to follow the tradition right now. Haas snorts from boredom, then paws the ground. Alright. 2 Foggies. Screeching birds are sitting in the logs of the palisade. Some of them observe you, but the group doesn't cease its squabbling. The foragers are inspecting the boat, talking about their recent fishing trip. The taller man welcomes you with a nod. Enter the tavern. Alright. Sleep. There's all my money. Alright, well, that'll heal me up a little bit. I hate spinning. Like, as soon as I get dragon modes, something always happens. The rain once again hit the ground, interrupting your sleep. Another day. Why? Why is it always muddy? I'd like to eat. Okay, well... No, she doesn't want anything I have. Time for me to go. Travel. Well, now... Actually... Yes, replace that save. Now we can just go north, if we can't get through the tunnel. The detour is not as smooth as the main road. A wagon can make it through, but even so, you have to squeeze between some narrow corridors, hoping no beast is going to jump at you from a ledge. You walk, leading your mount, with an axe in your hand. In the middle of the road, after reaching one of the higher hills, you take a glance around. Even from here, you see the sun reflecting from the ocean, but there's also a pillar of smoke coming from the distant west. There may be a volcano somewhere behind the horizon, but you can't tell if it's a part of the peninsula or maybe a yet stranger land. Once you get to the other side of the mountain, you find the northern entrance to the tunnel, blocked by a bronze gate you saw from the inside. In the sunlight, it's not as towering. Unlocking the tunnel would save me a lot of time. You get a good look at the village from a distant hill. It's torn between taming the crags and succumbing to their whims. The gray boulders are like the rotting teeth of a giant, sprinkled around by an ancient spirit. The carved cave mouths are covered with wooden doors. There are only a few windows, and you can only imagine how dark and cold the gouged-out rooms have to be. The buildings and walls, made of logs or stone blocks, must be much younger than the caves. The impressive whitewashed keep standing on the top of the hill in the west could just as well have been built in the city. Smoke rises from both sides of the wild river. You see many busy souls as they go about moving tools, food, and timber over the bridge. Your arrival at the eastern gate causes some curious glances, but the only person who approaches you is a man who was sitting at a table, discussing something with a few elders. He's carrying a crossbow on his back and a long rusty knife at his side, but doesn't reach for them. It must be a guard. I dismount. The man has to be older than 40. He wears an elegant blue-green linen tunic, but no armor. His skin is yellowish, like seaweed seen through a sunbeam. His long gray hair is tied in a ponytail, and his beard is trimmed to half a finger of length. A few large cysts make him look sickly, but his powerful, truculent voice adds to his strength and confidence. Cheers, stranger. You've reached Gale Rocks, you did. He observes your mount, then looks at the path behind you. I see no caravan from here. Are they coming? He suddenly meets your eyes, and his tone gets even harsher. Or are you here to idle about? I listen to nearby conversations. You have to get used to some of the local words and phrases that you've only heard coming from the mouths of the oldest of city folk. The vast similarities to the tongue of Havlavan only make these differences more distracting. I'm a Roadwarden. I'm here to solve problems, not cause them. Another Roadwarden? Are all them parents in the South too dumb to teach their kids how to keep their fingers in their own pots? He shakes his head with exaggerated motions and looks at the elders at the table. A Roadwarden, see that? Trying to cut the conversation short, you lead Haas inside, but you're stopped right away. Leave it by the walls until it's nightfall, right? We ain't cleaning our roads after any drifters, bars, or adventurers. He speaks with growing disgust. Don't worry, we'll keep an eye on it. You tether your horse to the stems of a shrub, and the man nods with approval, then turns around. Can you tell me anything about the village? He stops in place, then glances at your boots. Right. We fish. We salt fish. We sell fish. Our brave ones trade barrels for whatever we can get at other villages, but... He shrugs. Not much else to it, you see? Life here is slow. Without another word, he returns to the group of elders, where he helps one of them remove bones from their meal. You go to... I'm looking for someone? Interesting. The gatekeeper. The guard you met when you first arrived at the village is leaning against the wall, observing both the gates and your mount. Whenever Haas snorts, the gatekeeper reaches for his axe. He sighs when he notices your gaze. What? I encountered undead in the tunnel south from here. Right. They almost got my wife, they did, when she tried to check out the locked passage. We stay away from there, but talk to our digger. She's there with her toys. He steps away from the wall and looks at the nearest table, where an elderly woman is putting together a humble structure from wooden building blocks. Have you heard about the plague that has fallen upon Old Pagos? The plague? His voice is close to a shout, and a few people glance toward the two of you. The guard grows pale. Better take it to our head woman, Warden. We were planning trade with them. We were. Walk away. It's a weird way to organize it. The locals explain that the centuries-old caves need little work, and the humble fixes they put into the walls and sheds are taken care of whenever such a need arises. After a few minutes of chatting, one of the children leads you to an elderly woman responsible for looking after the condition of them buildings. The digger, called Luno. Or Iuno? Yeah, I think it's Iuno. Already wrinkled, gray-haired, and slightly stooped. She's sitting at the eastern gate, placing tiny building blocks on the table, raising a tall tower without making it collapse. Her hands are steady and precise, and her large eyes blink so rarely that you want to rub your own. She spares you a look and leans back, resting against the wall, then crosses her arms and critically observes her toys. Cheers, stranger. I have time. I got rid of the undead from the old tunnel in the south, but I'm missing the key to the gate. As Iona shakes the table, her toy structures fall apart. Merely like that? You cleared all them awoken on your own. After your nod, she looks at your axe, then at her toys. I don't have it, I'm afraid. Its place is at the armory, in a hiding place behind the fake brick, marked with an hourglass. You need to press it with a pendant, like those we wear in our village. A clever mechanism, this one. Where can I find an hourglass pendant? Ask Rufina, the tailor. Tell her I'd like to give you one as a gift. I'd like to learn more about the tunnel that leads to the mountain in the south. It's older than any human soul, it is, but not ancient. Those who dug through the mountain were still around when I was but a small lass. The village saved everything it got from trade for more than a generation to bring the bronze gate from Havlavan here. the pickaxes and all them tools and nails. It was a single long corridor that reaches from one end to the other, and a few chambers on both sides where travelers used to spend a night if they were desperate enough. Don't try it without a group of guards now. Monsters also love deep caves, and the days are getting colder. How come it's locked in the first place? It depends on who you ask. Let's just say that a great turmoil happened 10 years ago, right? The settlements grew further apart, traded less. Keeping a garrison of fighters and builders at the tunnel brought little value. We had to put greater trust in our own work, not in the caravans. Once again, foraging, cutting trees, and farming. With time, more and more beasts gathered around the tunnel, getting used to seeing no pushback. She looks at an old plank that's been resting behind her stool. She compares its thickness with her toys, then reaches for a gouge and handsaw. It was 3 years back when a few traders of ours went missing. Our searching group found the gate, locked from the inside. They tried to check it, but left the place when they saw moving shells, dead and fleshless. We've decided to clean it someday in the future, maybe hire a group of strangers to take the risk upon themselves. She glances at you, but so far, none have reached our village. I was told that you are the one that who looks after the local construction works. That's pretty much it, right? She glances at the spread wooden blocks. Every few springs or summers, I gather a crew to build something new, or rather replace an old hovel with something fresh. But most of the days, I just make sure that roofs don't fall on our heads and that the cribbing in the caves ain't too moist. Then the coopers help me, or a bunch of fishers. She gives your axe a long look, then reaches for her much smaller hatchet that shaves one of her toys slightly, narrowing it. For centuries, there's been merely one digger at a time, and this custom serves us well, it does. Oh, here we go. Alright. I'm with the merchants. Do you have enough building materials for your needs? Better ask the coopers. They struggle with timber. The good thing about digging in hills is that we always have enough stone. Our rocks are crude, but we don't need to sculpt, just pile them on. She turns a few building blocks into a small wall. A digger is an unusual name for your trade. And what would be a usual name in the city? A builder? After your shrug, Iuno grabs one of her building blocks, or wooden blocks like a dagger. Our forebears used to dig in rocks, widening the caves, and it was a name with great honor behind it. When I look around, she does so as to prove her point, it reminds me of our long path, from hiding to thriving and on the surface. She can't hide her smile. Did your crew build that keep on the hill? It must have taken you many years. She looks in its direction. The whitewashed walls make it look brighter than many clouds. We started when I was only a teen, still learning from the previous digger. Her voice is full of pride. There used to be a humble watchtower there with tents around it. Now we can all stay locked inside thick walls, but also shoot arrows from the wall, roof, and windows. You ask her if the keep has ever been used by the locals in combat, and she suddenly grows disheartened. You would be surprised, you would. There are tales of dragons, pirates, and bandits, but all of those happened before the war. Those lands were different, though I can't exactly say how. It's a weird way to organize it. The coopers and the carpenters in general have their space at the edge of the village, separated from the saltery with a stone wall that catches the shavings before they reach the fish, and which are then swept into a pile and moved to the smokehouse. You walk between the four woodworkers while the last one, a young woman with an apologetic smile, leaves the thatched store. She's wearing a heavy, worn robe, half brown, half yellow, covered with dust and wood chips, and carries under her arm a stack of withies? 2 small seashells in many shades of orange are hanging from her ears. Stranger, we need space here. I was hoping to learn a bit about your work. I'm from Havlavan. With a sigh of relief, she approaches an unfinished barrel, whose staves are getting pressed together with a dense cage of weaved withies. I've never seen that word before. In the city, the coopers would use old iron hoops, which would take less than a 20th of the labor. She drops her delivery and touches your shoulder with her large, strong hand. So the guild wants to speak trade again. Very well. All right. Very well. Let me show you around. Demedia, the head carpenter, I guess. She states with hesitation, and one of her workers mockingly snorts. Your guide laughs in response. Shag an eagle, idiot. Her small crew laughs as well. I smile as well. Her teeth are mostly yellow, but straight. My predecessor lost his eyes to a harpy a few days back, so I'm new to this role. But don't worry, I know what I'm doing. She confidently straightens up. Right. We have two types of work: barrels and everything else. On good days, we make a barrel. On bad days, we fail. She laughs, but that's fine. We can always get it done after a good sleep. She goes into great detail, and your eyes start to wander between the benches, pieces of cut wood, mallets, axes, and shaving tools. Noticing this, she nods toward the other workers. When the barrels are resting or bending, we do other things, but only for our own farmers, builders, fishers. Navica is the most experienced of us. She makes boats, paddles, right? Responsible tasks. The tiny woman she points at doesn't even raise her eyes. We sometimes make furniture, we do, but merely when something breaks. So the barrels are the most important. Do you have enough wood for them? Not really. We use oak, beech, and pine, but staves have to rest for 3 years, sometimes 2, sometimes 4. Every day I bring 14 staves and 2 headers here, and we replace them with new ones. We're careful with what we have. It's hard to plan years ahead. She gives you a warm smile. You need to talk about it with my neighbors first, but maybe the guild would like to provide us with timber. We'd rather barter than lock the coins in the keep, you see. The guild won't move wood from their own stalls so far to the north, but they may help you set up a new hamlet, or find you a partner who lives closer to Hag Hills. Right. It would need to be someone outside of the peninsula. Here, everyone cuts only for themselves, they do, even those gestures from creeks. We used to have a camp of lumberjacks, but now our warehouse gets emptier every day. For a bit, you discuss with her the value of a wagon filled with logs or planks, but the discussion leaves your area of expertise quickly. You simply promise to get the message to the merchants, and Demedia wishes you a safe journey. I take one more look around me and leave the workshop. Oof. Thirsty work, this is. Dries up my throat real quick. A bunch of kids laugh loudly as they carry buckets of vegetables over the stone bridge, calling someone who may very well be minutes away from them. Let's see. Archive. Who else did she tell me to talk to? Rafina. You get directions to one of the smaller buildings, which turns out to consist of only one spacious chamber. Like other caves in the village, it lacks sunlight, but the workbench standing right next to the entrance is well lit by an oil lamp. The old iron lantern is decorated with the shapes of seaweed and monstrous tentacles. On the counter you see threads, scraps of cloth, old tunics, and some boots. Behind it, there's a mature woman, though you can't precisely guess her age. The flame, dancing because of your movements, distorts the shadows cast by her wrinkles and large nose. Her bright red tunic is light, made of something lighter than hemp or wool. The sleeves end at her elbows, allowing her hands to sew together 2 pieces of fabric. Greetings. She runs her dark yellow eyes over your clothes. Her hair may be getting gray, but the colorful wooden beads among them distract you right away. Cheers, stranger. You need something patched up? After you nod, she looks deeper into the store. Good, as I'm better at fixing tears than making togs. Take a look. Indeed, while there's plenty of shelves and cupboards covered with pants, tunics, jackets, robes, hats, boots, and bags, many of them seem old, or made from 2 or 3 combined pieces of garment. We buy outfits from other villages, explains the tailor, maintaining her bored tone, and as they get worn and damaged, I turn them into something new. Do you have anything for sale? My neighbors walk in and put on whatever they feel like wearing, but I ain't wasting our fabric on outsiders. Maybe you'd like some jewelry. When you mention you'd rather take something useful for a traveler, she hesitates. Well, if you really need, I can pack you some old tools of mine. They'd help you fix your armor and togs without anyone's help, though it ain't as easy as you would think. Iona mentioned she'd like you to give me an hourglass pendant as a gift. First time I'm hearing about it. As she looks up, the beads in her hair dance in the light. I'll just ask her later on. You can pick it up from there. She nods at a box of pendants, rings, buttons, and buckles. All of them bear the touch of previous owners. I look around the store. Okay, well, we need the pendant. That's just outfit repairs. Okay. can work to repair my outfit. Okay. Should probably just go to the other tailor. I just need more money too. This bone ring looks like something from here. She moves it to the light, widens her eyes, and speaks with melancholy. I made it myself, I did, as a little lass. For someone who used to be madly in love, but is now taken by the storms. He was better at digging than sailing. She puts the ring on the counter. His wife is still around, though. Leave it with me for 2 coins. It will mean a lot to her. Take it. Much appreciated. She takes out 2 dragon bones from a box that's indistinguishable from the one with fasteners, then leaves your ring on the counter. Thanks. I head outside. Okay. I guess we can ask about Asterion. They've definitely seen Asterion. Right, your wardening friend? A guard you speak with doesn't hide her contempt. He ain't been here for many days, almost since the start of the season. You ask where you could find him, but she gives you a bored shrug and walks away. You ask other folks as well, but they don't have much more to say. He did some small jobs for a few of us, says the salt worker without meeting your eyes. Too busy with throwing firewood into a basket. The last soul. He suddenly freezes and looks around. We are the last people to ask, I mean. You try to push him into sharing more, but he finds an escape when his overseer shouts at him to get his ass moving. Your search for an inn is futile, and the locals are quite proud that they have no place to waste their days with mugs and dice. They explain that if any caravan needs to stay the night, there's always enough space to empty one of the caves. If you need a room to spend the night, you're told Fulvia may have something. Okay. Fulvia, that's what I need to find. Following the instructions, you reach a building with an entrance from the garden side. You step through the door leading into the mouth of the cave and call the person you were told to speak with. Fulvia, the room keeper. She comes to you from the half-dark corridor. She fits the description you heard, slightly round, partially because of the tunic and heavy pants hidden beneath the dark green robe. She looks like an eccentric city priest, what with the massive hourglass made of beautifully polished driftwood she wears, and the kerchief covering both her neck and hair. One feature that hasn't been mentioned by the locals are her eyes. Gray, asymmetrical, partially closed, and unfocused. Once she gets closer, she turns her head, gazing into the rock and pointing her left ear at you. Her steps are confident, and her hands keep touching the walls on both sides. She's old, wrinkled, and pale, but her voice remains strong. Your first instinct is to nod, only then realizing it won't really help you much. She repeats, "You smell of a horse. Room?" "Yes." "Right." She simply walks down the corridor, between the few humble chambers, some of which are inhabited by sleeping souls. After just a few steps, the light coming from the entrance helps you no more. You follow the sounds of boots and the smell of rosemary perfume, then suddenly hear a rock hitting something made of metal. The lit candle makes you sigh with relief. "What color?" After a quiet moment, she tries again. "The horse coat." "Oh, we'll finally know what Haas looks like." What has Mouse done? Well, I have been imagining him as more of a bay horse, so... She lets out a sigh. The beast of the emperors must be a beauty. The room is far from comforting. The ceiling is only a head above you. The walls are rounded and bare of any decorations, and the only chest looks more like a crude crate. At least the dried grasses covering the sleeping pallet are bug-free, and the smell of freshness. "You don't have to share it," she says with amusement. "How much for this delight?" She chuckles, still turned to you with her profile. "Don't worry, you won't be cold, and we don't let anything mold in here. I have a nose for it," she demonstrates with a loud sniff. "You can work for the village for merely a few hours in the morning, move some weights around, or you can pay me 2 coins. I won't take less, for I need none at all. I'll just throw it to Severina's chest in a few days." Severina's. Okay. Oh, wow. The locals scowl at me when I ask about Asterion. Alright, what was the... How did they spell her name? Severina, okay. Our head woman is in the keep, says a young basket weaver with legs too short and thin for her to stand on, but she's not very patient with strangers, she's not, or with loud neighbors. You thank her with a nod and head to the hill on the western bank, walking past the big kitchen. The steep path leads through an open, unguarded gate. As you look around the yard, you notice a few pigeons running around, keenly observed by a pet griffin tied to a wooden beam. Some drying underwear hanging from a rope, a spiked flail leaning against the wall carelessly, and a knocked-over bucket lying in a puddle of water. The place may be messy, but it is not impaired in its function. Preparing it for defense wouldn't take longer than a few minutes, and judging by the wall walk of the bailey, it could stand an attack from a large squad of soldiers. The current state of the place makes you think of Havlavan, whose stronghold yards and temple walls are often surrounded by small peddlers, a few of which are even allowed to set up their stalls. As long as they don't hinder anyone else's tasks, they are allowed to pursue the scarce scraps of open space. I look at the keep. The bright walls stand out from the other structures in the village, and as far as you can tell, the current layer of whitewash is still fresh. There must be at least 3 floors inside, enough space to contain more than 100 people, though without much between them. There are arrow slits in the walls, and the roof is surrounded by a fence-like barrier, a perfect spot for boulder throwers and archers. The large entrance door is ajar, with a wrinkled man sitting on a pillow placed on the stairs. He's not wearing a gambeson, but the fine steel-sickle sword at his side makes it clear he's not just a regular guard. He stops what he was doing, carving a figurine from a log, and stands up to greet you. Cheers, Roadwarden. Severina was told about your arrival. Follow me. He may be old, but he is tall, with the long and thin arms of a sea folk, a neatly groomed beard, and his gray hair in a ponytail. As you follow him, you're hit by the strong scent of cloves. I climb up the stairs. The door is thick and can be barricaded with 2 wooden bars. The hall is filled with benches, some of which are placed on top of the others, giving a bit more space for now. There is one path to the next floor, suspiciously covered with planks. The chamber is free of the roaring of the river, the shouts of workers, the chaos of animals, or the smell of cooked food. The room is well lit both by sunlight and candles, and quite drafty, though you still smell perfumes and aging wood. You doubt anyone lives here, or even uses this room for dining. The Roadwarden is here, says the guard and approaches the desk, standing between you and the old woman sitting behind it. I take a closer look at her. So far, she hasn't spared you as much as a glance. She's writing on a large wax tablet with a stylus as large as a dagger, and since she's a bit stooped, you see her only from the chest up. She's wearing a thick, warm dress in the color of a cherry, and an even darker, modest hat that's covering her hair. She could be older than 70, yet her face and hands have been spared from scars harsher than some pockmarks carved by illnesses. If you were to encounter her in Havlavan, you would expect her to be an official or maybe a rich scribe. Some of her belongings, however, wouldn't be found at the city's desks. The wax of her tablet isn't dyed. Instead of keeping water in a cup, she has a large, colorful seashell, and the winged hourglass placed on a stone stand is made of dried seaweed. I glance at the young woman who sits in the corner. Her crossbow is pointing at you. The resemblance between her and the elder is stunning, but she's slim and a bit taller, and wears a simple dark blue and black woolen tunic. While she's resting on a chair, hold on. I just have to say, I love the atmospheric, music in this. While she's resting in a chair, she looks at you almost without blinking, with hardly any movement, like a cat staring at a rat, trying to judge if you're a defenseless prey or a threat. I just don't know why people would be intimidating. I just feel like it's just going to get you in trouble. Maybe that's the point. Cheers, head woman. She raises her violet eyes slowly and looks at you kindly, putting away her stylus. Cheers, Roadwarden. She speaks with a hint of amusement, but it lasts only so long as those 2 words. I expect there's something only I can help you with. After a short pause, she clasps her hands on the desk. Let's hear it. Her accent is not as thick as that among the younger villagers, keeping a shadow of the years when the guild had tighter ties with the peninsula, but since she has no teeth, you have to think for a moment before you recognize some of her words. Oh dear. Okay. It's gonna be a lot of conversing. Yeah, I think I'm gonna save and come back to this tomorrow because there's gonna be a lot of conversation. So I have to ask about all the other places. Ask about Asterion, probably last, because, well, no one wants to talk about Asterion. I'm kind of wondering, it kind of sounds like Asterions with the bandits, but I wonder if there's a reason for that. So, anyway, I am going to save for now, and we will get back to this tomorrow, and we'll see what's happening. So we still have a way to go north from here, and then we have presumably at least a path through, like between the gate and here. I don't know what else is here, but it's a lot of space. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and save, and we will get back to this tomorrow. And replace that. Delete that. We don't need that anymore. Excuse me. So, thanks for hanging out, and we will see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central Time. Have a good evening.